Do you remember something from your childhood that nobody else seems to recall? Maybe it was a show that aired only once, a discontinued product, or the fact that you're sure the Fruit of the Loom logo had a cornucopia on it. You know it, but no one believes you. But for people who grew up in the early 1970s in the Huntington-Ashland metropolitan area, that memory is the show Candle Cove. A strange, low-budget puppet program that supposedly aired locally. Except for the fact that Candle Cove never existed. It's not on any TV guide, there are no schedules of it, there are no tapes of it even. Just memories shared by people who are adamant that this show existed on an old forum site in 2009 that was written by Kris Straub as a experimental horror piece for his site Icker Falls. That story would go on to transform internet horror as we know it. It begins, as so many ghost stories do, with a simple forum post. Does anyone remember this kid's show? It was called Candle Cove, and I must have been 6 or 7. I never found a reference to it anywhere, so I think it was on a local station around 1971 or 1972. I lived in Ironton at the time. I don't remember which station, but I do remember it was on at a weird time, like 4 o'clock p.m. This post came from a user named SkyShale033, writing on the Net Nostalgia forum in 2009. They remembered watching a pirate-themed kid show in the early 1970s, but were struggling to figure out any sources on if it actually existed. So, of course, they decided to ask this forum out to see if anyone could help out. Other users would soon start to reply. One, Mike Painter65, remembers the same thing. A pirate named Percy, who, all things considered, was a very terrible pirate, since he was constantly scared of going into places like caves or other dark places. But for the most part, details are still very fuzzy from everyone. There's a talking ship, there's puppet pirates, a girl named Janice, but all these memories feel way too real for anyone to dismiss. But for a while, the forum would go dead, until Jared in 2005 would revive the thread. He was much older at the time, so he was able to remember far more details than everyone else. The show aired in 1971 for only a few months. It aired on the regional local channel 58. There's constant Calliope music, which, for reference, is mostly known as circus music. The pirate ship was also called the Laughing Stock. They would go on to describe how the Laughing Stock would have to tell Percy, "You have to go inside." Anytime he had to go into a cave, taking note of how terrifying the flopping foam jaw was, especially with the askew eye. But as people began to recall more and more details, things started to get more disturbing. There's a skeletal marionette wearing a top hat and cloak. His costume was allegedly sewn together from the skins of children. His jaw didn't move properly. It just slid back and forth. When Janice asked him why his mouth moved like that, he replied, "To grind your skin." His eyes were seemingly just too big for his sockets. These are small details, but they're fucking horrifying for a kid's show. Especially if they named the Skin Taker. What the fuck? What were these guys thinking? And this isn't someone misremembering a detail or something. All of the forum users remembered it. The memories continued to grow darker. Skyshale remembered an episode where all of the puppets were screaming, thrashing, and wailing around for 30 minutes. And the camera would go back onto Janice just crying. Any hope that this was just a horrible dream being misremembered as an episode was eroded away as everyone else was recalling the same episode, just being completely horrified by it. And then the last post would seal this legend in. Mike Painter65 would write, "I visited my mom today at the nursing home. I asked her about when I was little in the early 70s, when I was about 8 or 9, and if she remembered a kid's show, Candle Cove. She said she was surprised I could remember that, and I asked why. She said, because I used to think it was so strange that you said, "I'm going to watch Candle Cove now, Mom," and then you would just tune the TV into static and just watch dead air for 30 minutes. You had a big imagination for your little pirate show. The forum thread was all fiction, of course. Written by webcomic artist Kris Straub in 2009 for his horror site Iker Falls. The story itself was inspired by an Onion article about a 36-year-old man still having nightmares about Lidsville. Straub, of course, told the entire story through fake forum posts. Of course, Straub wasn't new to horror. This wasn't his first rodeo. Iker Falls was already his playground for urban legends and scary ghost stories. But Candle Cove seemed to be different. It tapped into feelings that really hadn't been touched yet in a format that was incredibly revolutionary for its time. By framing the story as a series of forum posts, Straub gave it a sense of authenticity that few online stories had at the time. There were no jump scares, horrifying.exes, or an emo twink slashing and killing his family. Just a bunch of strangers reminiscing about a show. The tone was very casual and nostalgic, which is what made everything unsettling. Each one of the posts felt real. The fictional thread could easily blend in with actual threads or videos about childhood nostalgia. The typos, the usernames, the way people remember small details differently, all mirrored how real conversations sound. It wasn't some, and then the skeleton man said, "Give me Fred 2 DVD, or I will grind your bones into bread." And when the final post drops with the twist that nobody was actually watching a television show, just 30 minutes of dead air, that fucking changed everything. It gave the viewers a "the fuck" moment that just captivated and invested so many people. The suspense and horror of Candle Cove was just slowly building throughout the story until that shoe finally dropped at the end. Its impact would be profound. For 2009, something like this really hadn't been made yet, and once it came out, the game completely changed. Up until this point, stories on the internet could be viewed as simple ghost stories, chain emails, or, sometimes a cursed video game. Hell, Thunderman was still being workshopped in something awful at this point. And Candle Cove felt real in this landscape. Within months, this format exploded. You had stuff like Ben Drowned, which used posts from 4chan/Xboard and video evidence to sell a Haunted Majora's Mask cartridge. And the SCP Foundation built an entire universe around fake research reports. Candle Cove set the tone for an entire field of internet horror that was based upon realism and subtlety. There were no cursed EXE files, no gory rituals, just ordinary people in ordinary settings. It proved that internet horror didn't need to just jump out and scare you. It just needed a slow build-up and a immersive illusion. This realism-first approach would soon become the DNA for what would be known as analog horror. In 2015, Straub would launch Local 58, the grandfather of all analog horror. It disguises itself as a public access television station from southwestern West Virginia. It includes videos such as Contingency, an emergency broadcast instructing citizens to do the most patriotic act for their country. There is no jump scare. There is no explicit explanation, just dread. Or Show for Children, where an animated children's show just slowly devolves into just disturbing visuals. It was the true evolution of Candle Cove's format. The forum thread became the broadcasts. The shared memory became our shared viewing experience. While Candle Cove was people remembering a show, Local 58 was us actually experiencing one. It took the same unease and translated it into visuals. This became the foundation for what we now know as analog horror. People would take the foundations that Straub built, the distorted visuals, mysterious broadcasts, disturbing imagery, and use it to completely transform the horror landscape, until it got completely derivative of itself and kinda went out of fashion. It's all the same language that Candle Cove used, except now it flickers through a CRT screen or VHS player. But the influence goes deeper than style. Candle Cove proved that internet horror didn't need explicit blood or monsters. This realization shaped a whole generation of horror creators on the internet, who did not grow up with campfire tales, but instead with things like corrupted media and lost episode creepypasta. Today, when we scroll past found footage TikToks, discovered VHS compilations, or ARGs that blend fiction and reality, we're seeing the shadow of Candle Cove. It's the same question echoing back from 2009. Do you remember? Because you might, and maybe you were never supposed to.